I now call to order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013 at 6:30. Roll call.
Mayor Archie.
Here.
Vice Mayor LaHousas.
Here.
Commissioner Slattery. Here. Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Serafini.
Here.
Tonight's invocation was given by Reverend Michael Herrera, Shepherd Center. Is he here? If not, then our attorney will give us the invocation. Will everyone stand and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance following?
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, bless all those who give themselves in service to their fellow man. Grant unto them true judgment, noble purpose, and great daring as they seek to do your will in their work for the people of Tarpon Springs. We ask your blessing on the Board of Commissioners and on all who are in attendance tonight, that our work may find favor in your sight. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now go to public comments on items that will not be discussed this evening. If you have something, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll go to our first agenda item presentation. Item number 1 is Chamber of Commerce Beautification Award.
He's over here.
Sue Thomas, President, Tarpon Springs Chamber of Commerce, 111 East Tarpon Avenue. Again, I'm up here to do what I love to do up here most, is to give our beautification award. For those of you who are not familiar with it, and after about 4 years, I'm not sure there are very many, we started about 3.5, 4 years ago to give awards to people who had fixed up the fronts of their buildings, kind of to make the city look good and to attract new businesses. Tonight's recipient didn't just fix up the front of his building. If you've been by the Tarpon Tavern lately on Stafford, Dan couldn't leave well enough alone. He bought the building, completely renovated it inside and out, and started a business that was successful from the day he opened the door. His soft opening for lunch filled the place, and the next night he had, 150 bicyclers in there. Since then, the Tarpon Tavern has been an amazing addition to downtown, and we would like to present the award to you and tell everybody a little bit about what you do and what you have.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Tarpon Tavern's been open since the end of July, and I'm happy to say we're ranked #1 right now on TripAdvisor in Tarpon Springs. We hope to keep it that way. There's a lot of great competition, great restaurants out there, and I'm glad to be part of it. So we do traditional American pub food with a little bit of the evening flair. We have 30 beers on tap, some nice wines, and it's all about hospitality. So I know you have a lot to get to on your agenda. I'm just happy to be part of Tarpon Springs, and please visit us sometime. Thank you.
And when the weather's nice, he has a really, really nice patio.
Thank you.
As you take your seat, I guess, Dan, I don't know if you're going to leave us, but I just want to thank you for not only your beautification there, but helping to revitalize our downtown area with your business, and I just wish you much success in the future. So thank you. Any public comments on this item? We go to our next item, Florida Section AWWA Landmark Award. Smith?
Good evening, Mayor. I'm going to ask, if I may, that our item be put behind number 3. Our statewide chair is on his way from Orlando and apparently a little bit held up, but should be here very soon. I apologize for that.
Our next item is a Public Arts Certificate of Appreciation, and if we have Ms. Gravis to come forward. This reads, Certificate of Appreciation, Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs acknowledges Marlene Gravis as a member of the Public Arts Committee in appreciation of your outstanding service to the community and on being instrumental to the Tarpon Springs Public Art Committee for the creation of the General Guidelines, Master Plan, and Public Art Inventory. This award is given and heartfelt gratitude is expressed. A witness whereof this certificate is presented by direction of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, this 22nd day of January 2013. If you come forward, give me this. Thank you for
haven't done this in a while. I want to thank you all. I am very honored by the words, the very kind words in this document, and the fact that you have gone to the trouble to do this. I didn't do any of those things alone. There are staff people who work very hard to make these things happen, and the other members of the Public Art Committee worked tirelessly for more than 2 years on each of those documents, and I wish I could, maybe I should photocopy it and do them each copy, but thank you very much.
I just want to personally thank you. I know that there were staff members and others that was involved in this, but this was just an opportunity for us to say as a city, we definitely appreciate your leadership and all that you brought to Public Arts Committee. So thank you. With that, we have public comments. Seeing none.
I guess I'll speak as public as well as being staff member on the committee, but I have to say that Marlene is being very generous to everybody, but I believe we'd still be working on the master plan, Marlene, if you hadn't been doggedly pushing us forward. And I want the commission to know that she really saved us a lot of money by her hard work, because a lot of communities go out and hire a consultant to help put it together. And we found a good plan to use as a model, and we tweaked it, and we worked on our own vision with the input of the commission, but she was the one who really galvanized everybody and kept us on task, which is usually the hardest part of any project. So, Marlene, thank you so much, and we really miss you.
Barbara Schnipper, 1124 Lauren Lane, Tarpon Springs, and one of the initial members on the Public Art Committee. And I have to say congratulations to Marlene, because she did the heavy lifting, obviously. And I've worked with her from almost day one, and we really miss her. She's very professional, and she was a good person to have in charge. Thank you.
Seeing no other public comments, we'll go back to item number 2, and that's Florida Section AWWA Landmark Awards. Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Paul Smith, Public Services Director, and it's with great honor this evening that I present this to you. The Gross Avenue Water Treatment Facility of the City of Tarpon Springs has been recognized as a Florida Water Landmark by the Florida section of the American Water Works Association, also known by the acronym of FSAWWA. These landmarks are various facilities or structures serving as components of water systems that have historical significance. Criteria include being in service and operational for 50 or more years. This is a statewide recognition, and only one other utility received a similar designation this year. The facility is the crisply painted white building on the south side of Tarpon Avenue, on Gross Avenue there. And it once served as a firehouse for the water supply going back to 1916. In fact, that year remains engraved above the doorway of the building. In order to maintain our landmark, several years ago, staff, with the help of our Public Works Department, completed a comprehensive restoration of the building and well equipment and controls to thoroughly modernize it. while maintaining its historic character. The building continues to serve as a vital part of our water supply while also providing a working space for our water system operators and maintenance staff. So moving on to the thank yous, I'd like to thank the city manager, the commission, and the mayor, because when we work together, we do great things, and this is just one example of a great accomplishment of the city. On behalf of the Public Services Department, I'd like to thank the Florida section for this honorary designation, and we will display the plaque with pride. With that, I'd like to introduce the members of the American Water Works Association to speak if they'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Jason Perillo, and I am chair of the Florida section of the American Water Works Association, representing Florida's water professionals. The Florida section of the American Water Works Association is dedicated to ensuring Florida's present and future generations a sufficient supply of high-quality drinking water by providing critical information and opportunities to its over 2,500 members. We offer comprehensive technical training and continuing education programs for our utilities, effective legislative and regulatory policy development, and high-quality member services and networking opportunities for all of our Florida's water professionals. I want to thank you for allowing me just a brief moment of your time to give you some well-deserved recognition for your water utility, because they've received a very prestigious award from the Florida section, which is the Landmarks Award. To give a little bit more information behind the award, I'd like to introduce Mr. Marvin Caden, our past chair of the Operators Council for the Florida section. Thank you.
Since Paul has basically stole our thunder by giving you the historic value of the plant, I'd just like to take the opportunity to congratulate the staff, because it is truly the staff, and some of them are here today, Ray and staff. If maybe you guys can come up and we can present this award to you. It is really an honor to give you guys this award, and I know as a utilities manager who's retired from Pasco County, what it takes for these guys to do this. And I've visited the plant, and I'm very impressed with what your staff has done, and they're the ones that deserve the kudos for everything they've done. And it is my honor to present this plaque, which is very heavy. That's why I'm sorry we're late, but it took 2 people to carry it in. It took a tow truck. But this is a beautiful plaque, and we hope in this historic city that you will display it and truly understand what your staff has done. They've done an excellent job taking a plant at 1916 and creating a very nice facility. And I congratulate you, and like I said, maybe your staff can come up.
Real quick, before we do that, I'd just like to introduce Raymond Page, Utility Superintendent, and I think Raymond would like to say a few things about staff. Marvin stole my thunder on that, so we'll take it turns.
Nine for nine. Thank you very much, everyone. It truly is an honor to work with such a highly qualified staff, and the city should be very, very proud of the frontline individuals that they have out there every day, making this city a wonderful place for the residents to live, on a daily basis. This is, again, a proud moment. I've stood in front of this commission several times on issues like this, but this is truly something that very few cities will ever experience, and I feel proud to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, bud. Right here. as y'all take your exit, I'd just like to, personally thank, Ray Page, Paul Smith, all of the workers that, made this type of award, possible. You know, I always say that, you know, this is just an example of the type of workers that the city of Tarpon has that make us such an outstanding city, you know. So I just want to say on behalf of this board and the city as a whole, we definitely thank all of the staff for this prestigious award that you have given us the opportunity to receive tonight. Any public comments on this item? Commissioner? Thank you again. We'll now go to our consent agenda. Number 4 is satisfaction and release of liens, attorney fees, Frazier Hubbard, Branch Trash, Jacobon, Mastino, LLP, invoice number 40624, Thompson, Sizemore, Gonzalez, and Hearing, PA, invoice 68770, and 5 is Thompson, Sizemore, Gonzalez, Hearing, PA, invoice 68819. 6 is special events, Food Truck Rally, Merchants Association, February 9th, 2013, Sunset Beach Concert Series. 7 is authorized purchase of 1 rough terrain forklift through NJPA, contract number 60311-CHN, award file number 130038-N-JJ, single source purchase of legal and promotional advertising. 9, authorize the purchasing administrator to utilize Texas Department of Information Resources contract number DIR-DD-1344, purchase of mobile digital recording system, accessories, and related services. 10, authorize purchase of various vehicles and equipment through Florida Sheriff's Association contract number 12-20-0905, approve additional services authorization number 1 for RFQ number 090096-S, engineering services phases 2A and 2B Lake Tarpon sewer system. 12, authorize the increase to file number 090034-N, financial advisor services. Is there any item one like to pull?
I have a question to ask on the 6A.
Go ahead.
The question that I have is, the application has been revised, and it looks like the applicant is the Sponge Docks Merchants Association instead of the downtown. Is there a reason for that? Not that it's against the policy, it's just unusual to see it done that way.
Well, the merchants associations have joined, but they're 501. The form, obviously, to be eligible to do it, that's the name under it, so it's got to be under the name of the Sponge Docks Merchant. Even though they have combined, they act under that capacity as the Sponge Docks Merchants for their 501.
Just don't want to create any friction.
Yeah, no, it is the downtown. It is now a merchants association of the downtown and the Sponge Docks. But again, that's the official name that, you know, has to be entered for being able to do the event.
Yeah. Mr. LeCourse, I believe this event is going to be very, very nice. It's going to bring a lot of people here to Tarpon. Have we done any provision to provide access to the business that they came and complained on during the last meeting?
Well, again, one of the things you see in here on the addition is we kind of combined 2 events to relieve the impact, and we will be looking on both ends of looking at some areas to set aside some areas possibly where we can get some parking and stuff for those things. And by doing them together with the treasure sale in conjunction with that, we kind of put 2 events into one to relieve the impact on the street and stuff. So that's part of the purpose of that, taking into consideration what we talked about at the meeting.
Well, both of those businesses are on East Tarpon Avenue, so we'll have no problem going to them to have access then, right?
Well, you have the 2 lots. You have the lots on Court Street, because Court Street will be open, and you'll have the ability to get from Orange Street for those 2. So to be able to get lots for people to park and get to the businesses, that's what we utilize.
Okay. Do you think it might be wise to have some reserve parking for them during the day, during the business hours?
Well, that's what we're talking about in those two lots on the Court Street side and the Orange Street lot.
It's going to be dedicated for them, or it's just going to be reserve signs and stuff?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Any public comments? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Roll call?
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery?
Yes.
Vice Mayor LaHousas?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. The next item is special consent, item, number 13, approve settlement agreement in the case of the city of Tarpon Springs versus Madison Professional Building LLC.
This is a case that's been going on a long time. As you can see from the backup, it's a 2006 case. If you remember, it's Bayshore Heights subdivision. They were going to do some homes. They took down some trees. It's gone through several people. I believe we had an agreement. You'll probably recognize the name Camo because that's kind of the name in the whole process, especially you that's been on the board and remember him originally, I think, going to settle for $60,000 or $70,000. That fell through. Where it's ended up is it's scheduled to go to court in February on a foreclosure hearing. Mr. Trask has been working for a while to deal with these individuals and see if we can reach a settlement-sized trial. Obviously, if we take control of the land, we'll have some land to do. This group, Madison, is planning on developing the land. These weren't people involved in the original taking down of trees. They have no involvement in that. But they have been looking for a settlement as opposed to going to court February 25th. And what you see in here is the best negotiated agreement that we could get with them to settle the case, and it's a settlement that I would recommend unite to settle this case. I believe after the attorney fees are taken out, there'll be money for the tree bank, and it'll be property that'll be ready and able to be developed and get on the tax base and start getting taxes. Otherwise, who knows how long this will go on or how long the land will be empty, which is why we think that this is the best way to go, the best settlement possibility, and to settle the case and move on, hopefully, again, getting some homes out there off the Bayshore area, get some homes there and some tax base.
Some questions? Commissioner Lawson?
I'm just curious. I'm wondering why we didn't look at this in an executive session. I mean, it seems like when we're talking about settling a case, we sometimes do those in an executive session.
I'm deeply embarrassed. Apparently, Tom was supposed to brief me on this, and
I think it's because of the fact that it being a foreclosure case that will work. I think it was decided, because of the foreclosure case, once we got the settlement last week or whenever it came into the settlement agreement that they would agree to bring before you, that we, bring it to you to talk about.
And if we were to choose to not approve this agenda item, you said it then goes to court, and what was the date?
February 25th, I believe.
And then what would the ramifications be of that court decision?
It depends. We're not sure. Do we win the case, lose the case, get something in between? A lot of different things can happen on the court case.
I guess I'm hoping to hear what the different scenarios are. I don't know, Mr. Yakovone or?
No, and again, I abjectly apologize. I was not briefed on this, and assume that I thought maybe there had been some that you guys knew about this. And Tom apparently was supposed to brief me, and he went up to Georgia over the weekend for his son in the military, and I guess he hasn't made it back. So I apologize, but I have no information whatsoever.
What time constraints, and maybe you're not able to answer this either, but if this goes to court February 25th, I guess what I'm wondering is, when do we need to make a decision on this settlement offer? Tonight? Or is it possible to extend it out, or what is the timeline that we're looking at?
I think one of the main intents of getting settled early, obviously everybody has to prepare and do the legal preparations for court. Obviously their side and our side has to prepare and do the legal work, and of course more legal fees running up to prepare for court. Obviously, you do have a meeting February 5th, which would be 2 or 3 weeks before the case. Whether the other side thinks that that's not enough time, they better start preparing anyway. Whether they say that's too long, I don't know, we'd have to just bring it back to them that the commission, you know, wanting more information, decided on the 5th and see if the offer still holds.
All right, and I'm not necessarily saying we need to go in that direction. I'm just trying to understand what all the various options are. Those are my questions for right now.
I don't know if, you know, my thoughts is that if there is some unreadiness, you look at, the 5th should give everybody an opportunity to get any more information that you would like. And if there is some preparation, which I look at, you know, trying to sell, there's still opportunities for that. If Mr. Yakobon wants, to talk with his colleagues.
I certainly intend to talk to my colleague about this. I intend to talk to my colleague. Yeah, I frankly agree. I don't think you should approve a settlement till you get the full information, so. And I guess I was supposed to bring the full information, but it never got to me.
Mr. Tarpan.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just ask that if Commissioner Larson and Mr. Yakobon are, you know, more comfortable deferring the item until we can have an executive session to get into more detail, I would certainly, you know, I mean, be in support of that makes you feel more comfortable.
Commissioner Larson?
Thank you. I don't necessarily need an executive session. I was just kind of posing the question of why didn't we have them, because it seemed like the type of agenda item where we would. I guess the one question I have, and maybe Mr. LaCourse is able to answer this, where did we come up with the figure of $35,000? Where did that come from?
Just plain negotiation, us putting out one number, them putting out a lower number, and finally, I can tell you their initial offer was much lower than that, and just a back and forth, and that's the number of final negotiation. You know, that's the best we can do, and okay, we'll bring it before the board. Just a matter of negotiations of you know, if you could go backwards, you'd say that's somewhere in the middle of what both sides were offering. We ended up somewhere in the middle, which usually happens in these negotiations.
Question to ask. Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask the attorney, if we take that to executive session, what kind of information you expect him to get for us?
Well, I think that you'd be advised as why Mr. Trask is recommending a $35,000 settlement. There could be numerous issues here. There could be it's a foreclosure, so there are probably other people who have a right to the proceeds. There could be a question of the superiority of our lien. There could be a question as to the merits of our case. I know that Tom would not recommend an amount of money. He wouldn't recommend a settlement of the case just to get rid of it. There would be reasons why he's recommending this amount, and obviously it would based upon the merits of the case or what would be gained if we went to trial, or any number of things. I don't know what they are, but I think he would be able to offer an adequate explanation of why he thinks the $35,000 is a reasonable settlement under the circumstances.
Thank you again. This will be my final question. Mr. Yakobon, in your legal opinion, is there any particular harm in us waiting until February 5th to vote on this item?
I can't really, there may be something I'm missing here, but other than the fact that the preparation issue, I don't know if it can be settled now. I don't know why it couldn't be settled in 2 weeks.
Ms. LaCourse, do you want to chime in on that as well in terms of is there any particular harm in waiting until February 5th? Where I am right now is I'm not necessarily against the agenda item, but I would probably feel more comfortable with additional information.
If the board's uncomfortable, then, if they decide to, I'd be more worried about the board being comfortable than with if the deal falls through, we're, back to square one or we're going to court, so.
I'll say it's my experience that in 36 years of litigating cases, when attorneys say to me, we either settle now or this is it, we're going to trial, they'll settle for that amount on the day of trial. Because they're weighing things too. So I just can't imagine this will this will ruin the possibility of settlement for that amount.
Chair will entertain a motion. You got a motion now.
Did you want to allow for public comment, or?
Yeah, I was gonna do that there after I get
After
a
the motion.
now, so.
I guess I would, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to, make a motion to defer to, February the fifth.
Second.
Is it, just point of clarification, is that for an executive session or to move it
To move forward with it.
as an executive session?
Are we going to have time to do the executive session till then?
Well, we have to announce it.
If not,
Yeah, we could do it the same night. But it may not need an executive session, but I guess out of an excess of caution, because we always cancel an executive session, I would request that there be an executive session on this issue to be held, say 45 minutes before the regular meeting on February 5th.
okay, we'll do that.
That's my motion.
Yes.
That's second.
Second.
Any public comments on this item?
Thank you. Peter Delakis, 514 Ashland Avenue. Thank you, Commissioner Larson, for having the sense to bring up some questions and to get the board to defer this action. I just looked at it when y'all started talking about it, and there's a lot of questions I have right off the bat. First off, on page 2, it says the administrative fine is $245,500, which is $245,500. Yet lower, talks about the code enforcement, that the current fine, since September of 07, $100 a day still accruing. I don't see any amount as to what that fine is about. I don't know what y'all are throwing away. I wouldn't know. I'd like to know what that current fine is too. Also on page 3, in the therefore agreed, $35,000, $3,500 a month, et cetera, et cetera. Oh no, page 4, number 5. Each party shall bear their own attorney fees and court costs. We've had a lot of attorney fees over the years. I don't know what the total amount is, but I'd like to see what the total amount of our attorney fees have been before I throw that away out the window too. Secondly, I think it's wise to get some more information. Mr. Yakvon, I think, was involved with most of the Comoe stuff. I know maybe Ms. Trask has been handling the settlement. I don't know what's been transpired, but I know there's pretty good history, and I do think in some regards you may have some solid grounds to stand your ground. However, that would have to be determined through an executive session, and I think Mr. Yakvon is wise to say there may be other liens or other things that have prior actions ahead of you. And you'd also should ask whether the current code enforcement lien has any standing also. There's a lot of questions yet. So thank you, Mr. Larson, for deferring this and getting the board more information to make a wise decision.
There are no other public comments. Roll call.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery? Yes. Vice Mayor LaHousas?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. We go to ordinance and resolution. Item number 15, ordinance 2013-01, application 12-63. I'm sorry. 14 is authorized the purchase of various vehicles and equipment through Florida Sheriff's Association contract number 12-10-0905.
And basically, this is one just on there because of the amount of money it is. These are the budgeted vehicles, and again, you know, it's the amount that we said we would put things on special consent and not consent because of the amount. And they're all budgeted vehicles and ready to be purchased.
Any questions, Ivan? Any public comments? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery?
Yes.
Vice Mayor LaHousas?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. We'll now go to ordinance and resolutions. Item number 15, ordinance 2013-01, application 12-63. Burkett, rezoning application for 12.81 acres on Keystone Road from R100 single family residential to R70A single family residential. The second reading, quasi judicial.
Ordinance 2013-01, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida for 12.81 acres of property lying in the south one half of Section 8, Township 27 South, Range 16 East, generally described as lying 100 feet southeast of the intersection of Keystone Road and Mellon Street from R100 Single Family Residential District to R-70A Single Family Residential District, providing for findings and providing an effective date. That's the second reading of ordinance 213-01. This was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only with a map on December 2nd, 2012 and January 12, 2013. This is a quasi-judicial hearing where the commission will act in a quasi-judicial capacity. The commission is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at this hearing and apply those findings of fact to criteria that are previously established in the Code of Ordinances. The Commission may only consider evidence that is substantial, competent, and relevant to the issues. If that evidence demonstrates the applicant has met the criteria, the Commission is required to find in favor of the applicant. If the evidence demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria, the Commission is required to find against the applicant. There is an established procedure that will follow. Staff will present, all witnesses must give their testimony under oath, all persons testifying must give their name and address for the record, and all testimony and questioning must address matters that are relevant and material to the issues. City staff will go first, present evidence and testimony. The applicant will have a chance to cross-examine staff. The applicant will then present its case through witnesses and evidence. And staff will have an opportunity to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses. At that point, members of the public opposing the application will have an opportunity to speak. After all members of the public who have spoken in opposition to the application have spoken, then members of the public opposing the application, in favor of the application, will have an opportunity to speak. Each member of the public has 4 minutes to testify. The applicant will then have an opportunity to make a closing argument or summary and present any necessary rebuttal evidence, after which city staff has the same opportunity. At that point, the commission will consider the matter, and that's the point that commissioners can ask questions of the witnesses. A motion will be made and a vote will be taken. I would ask if there have been any ex parte communications regarding this?
No.
None? Anybody who intends to present testimony or stand at that microphone in connection with this matter, please raise your right hand and take the following oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, I have affirmations all around. Ms. Vincent?
Thank you. Again, this is application 12-63, a rezoning application for approximately 12.81 acres located on Keystone Road, bordering Lake Tarpon. This is second reading, so it'll be very brief. I would like to enter into the record testimony from the first public hearing on this. There have been no new information or concerns brought to the staff's attention. Staff recommendation is to approve the application as it was presented at the first reading. So I have answered any questions at the appropriate time that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you care to cross-examine Ms. Vincent on that? Who's the applicant? Okay. Does the applicant care to make a presentation? Okay. The applicant will pass. Are there any members of the public who oppose the application? None. Any members of the public in support of the application? None. Ms. Vincent passes on her opportunity to make a closing argument. Applicant? Applicant passes. Appropriate for the commission.
Commissioner Tarpon?
Thank you. Ms. Vincent, I just want to confirm that my request at the last meeting to put something in the file that talks about maintaining a buffer for the residents.
That's in the public record, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any questions? Chair will entertain the motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery? Yes. Vice Mayor LaHousas?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 16, resolution 2013-05, authorizing positions for treasury services.
Resolution 2013-05, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending Resolution 2001-41 to update position title changes, identify and authorize certain city employees to add or delete banking treasury services with banks serving the City of Tarpon Springs, providing for authority and providing for an effective date. That's the reading of Resolution 2013-05 by title only.
Yeah, Eric's here, but I think this is real simple. When we first passed this in 2001, the one position was called a chief accountant position. That was Mr. Herring. As you know, in 2007, we changed his position to assistant finance director position. So basically, this is just to update that and put the proper title into the resolution of the people who be involved in this. So simply because of Mr. Herring's title change, we need to change that in the resolution. That's what's being brought before you.
Any questions? No. Any public comments on this item? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery? Yes. Vice Mayor LaHousas?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Miscellaneous items, item number 17 is, North Anclote, Nature Park mitigation proposal.
What you're going to have is a presentation. If you remember back when we approved the project site at the northwest corner of Mears and Pinellas, one of the conditions that we had on there was that all mitigation was going to be done, had to be done within the city. This is a plan that Sycamore Engineering is bringing forward, have to do with the North Anclote Nature Park, and to get the commission's comments on this plan and basically what they think of it, problems, or we want to get input from the commission. So they'll be making the presentation. Mr. Function has been handling this. He's here also, so I'll turn it over to them to make the presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Tarpon Council. My name is Todd Pressman, 334 East Lake Road, suite number 102 in Palm Harbor. JD is the engineer. He's here to handle the PowerPoint, answer any of the civil questions, and Mr. Richardson is here. Don is our environmental expert. This is the issue of mitigation involving the shops at Mears. I'll tell you up front that JD and Don have worked very hard. They have approval from SwiftMud. They also have approval from the Army Corps on this project already. And basically, this is providing mitigation for a site plan that's already been approved by the city. The project is a retail center located at the northeast corner of Alta 19 and Mears Boulevard. As I indicated, that site plan has been approved by the city, but one of the conditions of that approval, which was Ordinance 2010-33, is utilizing wetland mitigation site within the city of Tarpon Springs. So that is what is before you this evening. We investigated a number of sites in the city for possible wetland mitigation. One particular site listed here is the Dixie site, the dog park, and the Rainsville site. The dog park had a small wetland area adjacent to the water, but that was not big enough to utilize. The Dixie Highway Rainville road site did not have enough wetland as well to be utilized. In addition, it's not in the saltwater basin. So the final site, the North Anclote Park, River Park, had approximately 5 acres of wetland, which was in poor condition, and required improvements that will fit into the criteria that were laid out. And this site had been utilized before for the Lowe's mitigation, as you may recall. So what you're looking at here is the North Anclote River Park site. We're proposing a little extension to the existing wetland mitigation, which was created for the Lowe's site. In addition, we'll also be treating, cleaning, and complete a large amount of planting of approximately 5 acres of wetlands, which are now in very poor condition. Don here can answer any questions specific questions about the wetlands that you might have. We've had a tree arborist involved, and as I indicated, Don had worked on it as well. They walked tree by tree with your city arborist, Richard Hay, on the site, and they've come to an agreement that a number of the existing trees were not in great condition, and they also agreed that the proposed planting trees are exceeding what will be removed. And we have a table to show you that per this table, poor trees coming out, new trees coming in, those plantings would amount to about 664 trees and shrubs, which is approximately 1,328 separate species, or separate trees. Really, in summary, we're planning to allow or put in about 20 times more trees than what are being removed. J.D. and Don have been involved with the staff for about 14 months. Since the preliminary plan, during that time, the improvements, as I've indicated, have been approved by the two regulating agencies. So in conclusion, the proposed mitigation should have a great ecological value. It's a very small extension to the previously conducted Lowe's mitigation, but with a large wetland area restoration that's not a part of the Lowe's plan. In addition, those proposed improvements would have great results on the existing wetland and surrounding areas, since large amount of trees will be included. Also, the work should save the city from the cost of maintenance to wetlands, since there is a grant to do so, and this project will be taking over those efforts, and the money from the grant can be used somewhere else. So we are here tonight asking for your approval of this mitigation plan, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Any questions? Mrs. Stoddard?
Thank you. I just have a question about that Antelope Park was funded by grant money, correct? So I know there's specific criteria that we have to stick by with the grant money. So is this all fits in?
Yes, in fact, like you said, they're going to do some of the, for instance, removing of the invasive species, those type of things that we would be required to do otherwise and stuff. They're going to perform that as part of this project.
And we can mitigate on that property. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Tarpan?
Thank you. You mentioned that the proposed 5 acres of wetlands is found in poor condition. Can you elaborate on what makes it poor?
Don, you want to respond to? Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Donald Richardson. I own Ecological Consultants. We've worked on this for a couple of years now. We are proposing the twofold plan. Mitigation to offset the impacts at Maris, which is Maris and the main Tarpon. And also approximately 4 acres of salt marsh bay swamp is going to be replanted, removed of exotics. What has happened is that area, that as you walk down the main park walkway, it'll be to the east of that parkway. There's about 4 acres of bay swamp that borders the salt marsh, and that has been impacted by Brazilian pepper, earpod trees, Carolina willow, a lot of different exotic species that the park at one point in time did some maintenance out there. It has sat now for probably 6, 7, 8 years. It's now overgrown with exotics. We've talked with several of the residents who would like to have the exotics removed and that area replanted, who border that piece of property that's just off-site. So from a wildlife perspective and a visual perspective for the people who live there, it's a big selling point for this project. So in essence, what we do there by removing the exotics will help the rest of the park, because it will cut down seed source material that will impact other parts of the park that they're actively maintaining.
So in other words, the wetland is of poor quality because of the invasive species, not because there's any pollutants or debris.
The river itself, the Antelope River, that whole basin is in very good shape there. But the upland portions, part of that 4 acres is actually wetland upland. There's about 1 acre of upland and 3.5 acres of wetland. So we are proposing to clean out all the exotics in that 1 acre of upland, plus the, wetland area, which will basically free up a lot of money that the, city would have to use for that, and the developer can do that, and this way, it's a win-win situation.
Sure, and my understanding is this maintenance agreement would be for 5 years?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's a minimum required by both the Corps and Swiftmud.
Right. My only real concern, which is something that you just touched on, is that we'd be taking upland acres and converting them into wetlands. That's not the case.
Yeah, well,
can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. J.D. Al-Sabah, Sycamore Engineering, 8370 West Hillsborough Avenue, Suite 205, Tampa, Florida, 33615. It's a little bit extension, and that area to the existing, of course, Lowe's area, and that is really kind of in between the main driveway and the Lowe's. So it's like dead area which we extended it, if you see it here. That's what we talk about. That little area here left between the driveway and the Lowe's. That's what we extended. The rest is really cleaning up what Dr. Don indicated. The upland here going to get cleaned and planted.
Yeah, I understand. So, but the upland isn't going to be converted to wetland. That was my question.
No.
Okay.
Basically, what we have is that what we're going to do is we're going to take the exotics off the uplands, replant those with native species like flash pine, beautyberry, and things that are consistent with the sandhill pine flatwoods that occur in the park there. Match that system, and then go ahead and replant the wetlands with native species that occur already along the salt marsh.
Sure. So my other concern would be on the removal list of trees that you're going to remove. I noticed that I saw the removal list, and I also saw the planting list. And my concern is that we're going to be removing mature trees, let's just say live oaks, and some of them are 14 inches in diameter, a caliper, I guess is what you call it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be replacing those with 2-inch trees. So,
well, let me give you a little idea on what you have out there. The uplands that are basically between the two lobes of the wetlands that we are proposing to create harbor a plant community which is a mixture of pine flatwoods and sandhill. Those plant communities need to burn regularly, and they have not. As a result of that, in the two areas, the small areas that we are going to mitigate, we have sort of done our minimization in looking at what trees we can take out versus what trees we don't want to take out. Because what has happened is that probably the predominant tree is oak with scattered longleaf pine, and then a host of exotics, camphor tree, Brazilian pepper, earpod tree, etc., etc. What has happened is those trees have a much higher canopy than the oaks and pines. So they have shaded out part of the oaks, and they have not burned. So these scrub oaks that have now grown up are in poor condition. That's why we have the arborists out there now. I have a PhD in plant ecology, and I do a lot of burning. My expertise is sandpine scrub, sandhill ecology. So what we have there is, even though we are removing 28 trees that are 5 inches or bigger, of those trees, there's only a few trees that are in the middle that have been sort of away from the exotics that are in fair to good condition. What we would normally do in that circumstance for maintenance is to cut those trees down or to roller chop that site and then burn it. The fire that would go through there would normally scorch the canopy and kill those trees, because the longleaf pine, wiregrass community that part of the park is dominant in, and the park is just now, they've done some hardwood elimination, they've done some burning out there, and they're just slowly starting to get it back to that wiregrass, longleaf pine. So if we put a fire through there for normal maintenance, most of those oaks and the exotics would die anyway. So what we're doing, what we're proposing here, is we are proposing almost 20 times more DBH inches than what we are removing. So let's say on those 28 trees we have 75 inches of DBH. We're providing 1,300 inches of DBH inches. In the long run, what that does is that increases our wildlife usage, and it actually provides a better community because in many ways we're not able to burn as frequent as we did when we had lightning strikes. So
the process would be to go in, take out these trees, burn, and then replant?
Yeah, normally in that in that Sandhill Pine Flatwood community, we would normally roller chop the hardwoods, knock the brush down, let it dry out for 2 weeks, do a winter or summer burn. It would eliminate some of the small pines by scorch. The big pines that are 30, 40, 50 feet, which are mature, would then would not be affected because of the thick bark. They would drop seed and it would repopulate. So what you're trying to do is take that forest, which has turned into more of an oak hammock, and revert it back to its pine flatwoods wiregrass basis, which is what for instance, the DEP does with the state parks. Their whole program is to take historic plant communities and to revert those back to what they were before man started monkeying with them. So, and the park has just started doing that. They've done some roller chopping, they've done some hardwood thinning, and this little patch that's on the end is the extension of what they did, but they have not had enough funds to move south, so it's still predominantly exotic with a few oaks that are left in it. And we're hoping that with the wetland mitigation, the upland enhancement, and the wetland enhancement, we actually, through the core and swift mud permits, we get lifts so that we offset the functional loss so that we actually end up with better plant communities than we did before we started.
Thank you.
That's it in a nutshell. If that makes any sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Do I need to repeat that? That's a smart guy. He's a lot smarter than me. Thank God he was here tonight.
You think you could talk? Commissioner Larson.
Thank you. Mr. Yakavon, I have a legal question. In July 2010, the site plan that was approved of had these conditions, and condition number 6 said, all required wetland mitigation shall take place within the city of Tarpon Springs with the following order of preference: the Dixie Highway site, the Dog Park site, the Rainville Park Road site, and obviously tonight we're talking about a site that is not one of those 3 sites. Is that problematic at all from a legal standpoint? I know they used the word preference in that condition.
No, I don't think there's a legal issue there.
And then, why? Because the word preference is there, that it's not binding, they're not bound to one of those 3?
Right.
Okay. Ms. Vincent, are you still, there she is. From a staff point of view, how do we feel, and I particularly want to take into account the fact that they are removing some invasive species such as Brazilian pepper. So how do we feel about this plan as opposed to the 3 that have been listed, which I guess were deemed to be inappropriate?
Okay. All right. Tom Fletcher, Public Works Director. As far as the mitigation work at the Anklet Nature Park goes and the impact on the city, that was actually kind of a long question, but the impact on the park system itself over here is twofold. One is the condition of the park over here and the continuing responsibility of the maintenance on it, and plus the cost of doing that maintenance. And that's why when I talked to JD about this project over here, it's one of the reasons why I personally support it.
Thank you.
Comment as far as the other sites compared to this. Part of the requirement for the other 3 sites have Brazilian pepper, but they're not associated with salt marsh. Part of the Swift Mud and the Core permit requires a like-for-like impact to creation. At the Mara site, we are impacting mangroves, mangrove species that have been invaded by Brazilian pepper. So we didn't have the opportunity to go to a mitigation bank to offset that with a freshwater or another type of plant community, so we had to settle for the Anclote system because it was in the city and it offered us salt marsh habitat that we could expand on, and additionally, it would help the city lower its costs by us removing the exotic. So in essence, we satisfied the permits, the city, and a lot of different other parameters that sort of made the other three sites that it didn't work. Now, I know one of the things with the dog park did have salt water next to it, but because of the mitigation we had to create and how much there was, we couldn't accommodate the mitigation with the proposed future expansion of the dog park. The Dixie site and the Rainville site were both privately owned. I mean, I think they're privately owned, or owned by the city possibly, but they did not have an active title connection with salt marsh, which is what we needed to satisfy the core permit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner.
I think we have one public comment there.
Peter Lacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. It's kind of hard to see these diagrams, and I know during the presentation it wasn't shown, but like when we see these diagrams, I don't know if you can put them up there, but if you can maybe like show kind of where you're talking about. But from what you're saying, you're right on about the burn and having the pines repopulating, taking out the old stuff. So I think that's a fair exchange to, as far as all the tree changes, I kind of was curious about, a little bit more of, the schematic stuff, but for approval for them, they're happy. The other question, I guess, is, where's Renee? Site plan. The site plan, y'all are referring to the northwest corner of Mears and Pinellas. This went through in July of 2010, and is this site plan, did it not expire? Did they pull permits for it? Is this the same people? Or is this the property owner still wanting to sell the property, in essence, to still, keep everything viable? Because to my understanding or knowledge, I thought this project had died. So I guess I'm curious, is this the project that's coming to northwest corner? And if not, what is? And those are just some simple things. But I think this is a good thing to move forward on, as far as blending it with the Lowe's mitigation and this mitigation. It points out where when you have people on the boards who stand up for a principle, that sometimes you get what you want. On the whole Mears thing down there on the Mears crossings, we got them to do work here, we got them to do work on the golf course. Same thing with this within the city. And it was because developers came, they got resistance, they went back, revised, and came forward with something that truly works. So I would like to thank y'all for all the efforts y'all put into this, because this really looks like a good plan. The only other maintenance or management issue I would be curious about, they say they're going to maintain for 5 years. I don't know if Lowe's is required to maintain their part for 5 years, and since they're not involved in the project, if they're still maintaining, and then will these people have to absorb some of Lowe's maintenance, because I see a lot of cross lines for Lowe's and this and sharing stuff, so I hope that can all be worked out, and if necessary, get Lowe's back involved to what they may be responsible for. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments on this item?
Maybe if you want, Mayor, I could have Renee come up and just talk to you about where this goes, where the future goes with whatever decision you make tonight, and just go over that briefly to remind us from back from the last meeting.
Excuse me, with regard to the existing site plan that was in the backup, they did pull the most basic rudimentary permits that basically put that particular plan in stasis, so they can come forward with that plan with an acceptable mitigation plan if the board conceptually or votes to approve the mitigation to be done in the park. Alternatively, they could come through with a completely new site plan, and I assume that they would probably still want to be able to use this plan for the mitigation. No matter how you slice it, there's going to have to be a mitigation site for that property at the northwest corner of Mirabel at 19 to develop. There's just no way to get around it. So this is in the city. It's which is a preference for us under the comprehensive plan. So that I think that there's no real need for, if it's the existing plan to develop, then they would just go to permitting and continue on. If it's a new site plan, obviously it will come back to the Board of Commissioners, the Planning and Zoning Board, Board of Commissioners, and then this will be, part of that plan.
Thank you. Any other questions? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery?
Yes.
Vice Mayor LaHousas?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Item number 18, Planning and Zoning Board, discussion of Planning and Zoning Board, is I guess the first item that we have, on our agenda. I'm not sure who's going to start it off. It has your name by it, but I know what you started off with, city manager.
I'll start. You don't mind?
This one.
Okay, thank you. Well, there's just been some concerns lately regarding our Planning and Zoning Board, but first let me start by saying not only our Planning and Zoning Board, but every board that we have within the city, their dedication, their time, their effort, we can't thank them enough for giving back to our community. We can't do what we do without boards and volunteers. We can't. And but there are rules and procedures that each board has to follow. And I'm not sure if any of my colleagues have seen some of the last meetings of planning and zoning, but I've seen the meetings. I've gotten phone calls regarding the meetings, not only from residents. I've seen how staff has been treated, as well as applicants have been treated at these meetings. And I'm not sure where we need to go from here. I have some suggestions and some questions, but something has to give. Like I said, there's policies and procedures that are in place, and I don't feel they're being followed. I'm not sure if the chair of the board has has gabbled down some of the members and has been told, wait a minute, I'm still talking. I think that's unacceptable. We're supposed to make, us as well as the Planning and Zoning Board, when there's a project in front of us, we're supposed to make our decisions based only on competent and substantial evidence. And there's a lot of other discussions and decisions made other than what is other than what's presented in front of them. And it's just gone on quite a bit. Our applicants that have been here have been insulted numerous times, have been called names it's uncalled for, and I won't repeat what's been said. Like I said, all this is in the tapes. I'm hoping some of you watch these tapes. I used to come to the meetings. I've decided I'll watch it at home because it's sometimes just too much to bear. I don't know. I'd like to ask the city attorney a couple of questions as he sits on the Planning and Zoning Board. And to your knowledge, Mr. Yakavone, since you've been on the board, it's procedure that I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that if a planning and zoning member would like to discuss or come to a commission meeting and get up and talk about an issue that we're now seeing, do they have to be appointed by the Planning and Zoning Board in order to speak on behalf of the board? And is it at each individual time?
Yes, I think if they are going to speak as a representative of the board, then the board has to delegate that responsibility to them. But of course, they have a First Amendment right to get up and speak as an individual. But representing, giving their personal opinions as opposed to speaking as a representative of the board.
And maybe they should, let everybody know that they're not speaking on behalf of the board; they are speaking on behalf of themselves as a citizen.
Well, I've always assumed that if someone gets up and doesn't say I've been delegated by the board to speak, that's just their personal opinion.
Okay. I have some ideas. I'm not sure where we can go with this evening. I want to get some feedback from my colleagues. I know, like I said, we have a huge year coming in front of us this year, economically wise, and it's just difficult when we're out there. I'm out there, and I'm getting phone calls, or I'm getting, bombarded on the streets with, we don't feel comfortable coming to the city and bringing our business here because that board is difficult. I understand where they're coming from most cases, most times. I'm telling you, personally, I don't rubber stamp what staff gives me, what staff puts in front of me, what they present. And most of you should know that. I've fought for some big causes in this community. I don't rubber stamp. But again, there's policies and procedures that we need to stick by, and I think that the board's kind of gone on their own, off somewhere else, and they need to be reeled back in. And I don't know if the city manager has anything to say.
Honestly, I'd be glad to answer any questions you want. Obviously, what I've told y'all and the reason you see my memo in the backup, I want to make it very clear to everybody what I was saying. Obviously, this is your board. And yes, this is not supposed to be any of your boards. Don't need to be rubber stamp boards. They don't need to, but there's a matter of how the board conducts themselves. There's a matter of how the individuals on the board conduct themselves, and what representing the city and representing you, because these people are representing you. Not that they have to agree with everything you say or do it, but they're representing us. We've talked a long time, and I've had to overcome when I became this job the perception that staff was causing a lot of bad feelings in the community and the production things, but I'm sure if you've talked to people, if you've seen the things, the problem we have, whether it's with Karen recruiting people, or obviously these people scout cities they come to, they look at what's happening, and again, one of the main emphasis is why I tell you just go back over 2012 and look at the meetings. Look at how some people are treated. Look at the people on. Is this an inquisitive board trying to get something, or is it what's been called many times an inquisition that people are being put through that is the initial attempt that leaves people with a bad feeling about the city, and of course when it's spread in the thing, that bad feeling pervades. Obviously, I asked you to talk to a lot of people because I think you should get the input of a lot of people. It's not part of me and staff, except, there's very limited incidents where I would come forward to you and ask for a board member to be removed. I've done it once. There are some circumstances that we would do it. In this case, an issue's already resolved itself, but again, what we have to deal with as staff, and we'll deal with whatever, whoever you put on there, what challenges we have to deal with. But you really have to answer from yourself. I know you've been hearing them because they called me. They said they're going to call commissioners. They're going to say things. There's a fine line with being an individual trying to get to things, and is that individual representing what you want as a board and what you want people coming into the city to get a reputation on. And again, there's a lot of people to talk to. I can tell you there's a full audience of people at the December meeting, and one of the telling signs of that December meeting is some of the members of the board who voted their way, they were still upset with how the whole course and how the atmosphere was of the condition. So it wasn't people who they voted against, it was even people who voted before saying, boy, we're not going to get any development into this place if that's the way people are treated on there. And as I said before, if that's what you want to continue and those type of people remain on the board, then staff will deal with it and try to buffer it as much as possible if that's what you want representing you. But if we're going to make a change, now's the time to make it, because I'm telling you, this is the time we've been inundated. Even today, when I had a lot of other things to do, there's some people inquiring, some projects going on that they're coming in, and calls are coming every day. There's going to be a lot of people coming to us, and again, there's a common denominator of everybody I've talked to about their feelings about how that's conducted. And that's what I thought you really need to pay attention to. You need to look at it and talk to people, and if there are changes to be made, then we need to make them now as we go forward into this crucial year of ours. If there's not, we will, we'll adjust and conduct ourselves. There may be some different things I have to do as staff. I might have to start being part of the staff team that sits up on their board. If that's what I have to do, I have to do it, because a big issue is, where is the control? Can the chairman control? Can the attorney, if he tells them, you're going out of bounds, this is not what you're supposed to be reviewing, and they go ahead and do it anyway? Obviously, I would be there. I've told my staff, just don't answer those questions. If it's somewhere they're not supposed to be going, you respectfully decline the answer. If the board doesn't like it, then they can deal with me or something. But it shouldn't get to that point where we're sitting there declining, going back and forth. This is not an area you as a board are supposed to review. And, I don't know how much the city attorney, all he can do is tell them this is an area outside your purview, but when it continues on anyway, and, questions go to applicants that are inappropriate, not by the law, and could cause us some legal harm possibly later, then, I don't know, the city attorney can do much about it, but tell them if it goes on, it goes on. So that's our point on the issue.
So can the city attorney, I guess, while he's sitting there, make, if there's one of the members talking about an issue or, talking about the application, but about things that just aren't relevant, can he interject? Or he should interject?
Well, all I can do is suggest that that's an inappropriate question. I certainly don't have the authority to stop the questioning, or I'm not the chair.
So it's more, the chair has the responsibility.
Fundamentally, and really it's the whole board. I mean, the chair, the way it works is that the chair could say, look, if you want to get really formal, the chair can say that I don't believe that question is relevant, and I think it should stop, and then there should be a vote of the board to determine whether the questioning is relevant and whether the question has to be answered. But ultimately, it's the chair's responsibility to control the discussion.
So, what I'm thinking about is, and I'd like to hear from some of my colleagues, if we feel that maybe the city attorney and the city manager have a meeting with the planning and zoning board, the entire planning and zoning board, and revisit their policies, procedures, and, talk to them and set them straight? Or do we make a decision on, we've got a mound of applications that came in for people that are interested in running for this board, or do we restructure the board tonight? I mean, this is where I'm at, and, but I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Tarpon.
Thank you. I would just like to say that when, selecting members for the board, this is a duty that I take very seriously. To make appointments to various boards and committees, many of these boards and committees are required, members of them are required by our city charter and code of ordinances to help guarantee, a broad base of citizen involvement in our community, and that helps further our democratic process. When asked to make an appointment to a city board, I think there's a broad base to look at. One would be the residents of those, who have indicated a willingness to serve. When you look at these resumes, you're looking at an individual's expertise, knowledge, and background for what the applicant may bring to the table for the particular board that they're seeking to serve. One thing that I feel firmly of is I do not look for individuals that will support a position they perceive this board of elected officials have on any particular subject. In other words, I don't look to make a board appointment to people who just rubber stamp things that they think city staff or this board of commissioners would like to see. I welcome different points of view, vision, and diversities and opinions on broad range of subjects by our boards. Independent, critical, and analytical thinking definitely benefits this board of commissioners and the citizens of Tarpon Springs. Board appointments are a privilege, not a right, and with that privilege comes responsibility, responsibility of knowledge of the subject that's before them, responsibility to be fair, courteous, polite, and maintain a proper sense of decorum to all involved, city staff, the applicant's representative, and members of the public. And I definitely agree that some of this has been violated. Appointees, they must adhere to their board's written and adopted rules of procedures. I think that, there's been instances when things have gotten out of control. There's been name calling. Obviously, the board, the Planning and Zoning Board's rules of procedures have been violated. I think there's been insinuations that have been made by individual members to this board that may be representations that they're representing the entire Planning and Zoning Board. I don't think that that's fair to the entire Planning and Zoning Board or to this commission. And I do agree that 2013 is going to be a tremendous year. I know firsthand. I'm in real estate and development. That's my business. I know what's happening out there, and I think that 2013 is a year and an opportunity for this community to move forward. There's windows of opportunity. The windows open and they also close. So those, are my feelings. I think that something definitely needs to be done, and I think it's up to this board to make a decision on how extreme we'd like to go.
Thank you. Commissioner Law?
Thank you. I think there's a couple issues that we need to look at if we feel like there's problems with a particular board. One issue, and I served on the Planning and Zoning Board, one issue that I would look at is training. When I was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Board, I was given a code book, and I was given my backup for the first meeting, and said, there you go. And so I was then expected to ask appropriate questions and make appropriate votes. I think that we need to develop some kind of a training for not just planning and zoning, but probably for other boards as well. And I think this probably should be done in the form of some kind of either a document or maybe even a video, not necessarily a workshop. Or if we do it in the form of a workshop, then we need to record it because there's such high turnover on these boards. So we could do a training one day and, a month later have a different board. So I think it's important that it be something that could be given to new board members very easily, like some kind of a DVD or some kind of a link to a website, or, like I said, maybe just a document that they could review. But I think if we feel like people are asking questions that are not appropriate to the various agenda items, maybe we need to provide some additional training. Part of that training could also be on parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order, knowing when to speak, when not to speak, and perhaps some additional training could be given to the chairman of the board, so that he or she is always, they always feel that they're fully equipped to run the meeting, particularly when it starts to get into something controversial and tempers start flying. And I think training is going to be very important. Something else that I think would be beneficial, and I don't think we have the right to force this upon board members, but I think it would be beneficial to encourage board members to ask some questions before the meeting. I think one complaint, particularly when we look at the December meeting, is the length of the meeting, and the December meeting went until, I believe, 1 in the morning. Certainly board members have a right to ask questions, and they should ask questions, but if a board member has a particularly large number of questions, maybe some of them could be asked prior to the meeting, and then that board member could decide which of those questions need to be asked in that public forum, because obviously some of those questions do need to come up in a public forum. Related to the December meeting, going until 1 in the morning, something else that we could consider is scheduling a special session when needed. If you looked at the agenda for the December meeting, I don't think it was terribly hard to predict that was going to be a long meeting. Now, maybe 1 in the morning was extreme, but I really wasn't surprised that meeting went really long. Typically, the Planning and Zoning Board meets once a month, but if we, look at an agenda and say, oof, this one's going to go really late, I think maybe we could look at having a special session for the Planning and Zoning Board to where, once or twice a year, maybe they have 2 meetings in a month. I'd be interested in hearing from staff if there's some reason that that's not doable. But I think that when we talk about how we're treating applicants, I don't know that it's very welcoming to ask an applicant to be there until 1 in the morning to get a vote on their agenda item. So I think that's something worth looking at. The other thing I wanted to mention that I don't think we've talked about tonight is attendance. We're talking about whether or not we want to replace board members. And if we're going to have that conversation, I think attendance should be part of that conversation. We were not provided with attendance records for the Planning and Zoning Board for us to review tonight. But the other thing I wanted to mention, we keep talking about the December meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. 2 days after that meeting was a Board of Adjustments Board meeting. It was scheduled to take place, but it did not take place. Not enough members of the Board of Adjustments showed up for the meeting. And it's my understanding that same scenario happened earlier in the year as well. So I really think if we're going to look at replacing board members of any of our advisory boards, that attendance really needs to be a key part of that equation. So I guess when you look at tonight's agenda item and you talk about what do we do now, what do we do tonight, I'm not at this point in time talking about removing board members. Obviously we do need to appoint an alternate to the board because there's currently a vacancy for an alternate. So I think that's obviously something we need to do tonight. I think we need to ask staff to develop some kind of a training mechanism, again, whether it be a video or a document or something. And I think that we need to keep an eye on attendance of all advisory boards. And I believe each advisory board has a policy that says if you miss X number of meetings, then you're automatically removed from the board or some such thing. I think we need to take a look at those and make sure that we're following those procedures. And again, I think that we need to take kind of a common sense perspective on the agendas. And if we see an agenda that's obviously going to be extremely lengthy, I think we do want to take a look at having planning, zoning, or any board for that matter, have more than one meeting that month. If you think about our board, we meet, the first, third, and last Tuesday of every month. So we typically have 3 meetings in a month. Our most time-consuming agenda items tend to be the same things that went before the Planning and Zoning Board, and yet they only have 1 meeting a month. So, again, I just think that's something worth looking at as well. Those are my comments at this time.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to express my appreciation to all the members serving on the boards. I also served on the Planning and Zoning Board, and I think is very useful board, and they're serving the city very well. I also believe that the city of Tarpon Springs must provide training and coaching to the members of all the boards, starting with the sunshine law, the professionalism, the rules and regulations of each board, treat the customers with respect and just like you want to be treated, and also to let the people of the board know what the expectations of the board is and what's their responsibilities. And again, I feel the same way as the Commissioner Larson did. Many members that go on the board, they have no idea what their expectations is, what is their responsibilities are, and what are going to do. They'll learn as they go. I think we need to provide with some kind of a training to do that. And if that doesn't fix it, then we have to take the other, different step. But I believe that if we do our job, providing the training and the coaching that the members need, I think is going to be sufficient, and we'll have good boards.
Thank you. What I'm going to do right now is, I guess they say it's a point of privilege, because I see some of the planning and zoning members out there, and maybe they have some comments that they like to share with us about their feelings about how it goes. I'm going to open it up to public comments at this point in time.
My name is Bill Vinson, reside at 144 North Spring Boulevard. I'm a member of the Planning and Zoning Board. I was appointed by this board in 2008 to serve on the Planning and Zoning Board. And in 2011, my 3-year term expired, and I was appointed again for another 3-year term. I've only missed a few meetings. I don't know what my attendance record is, but I've rarely missed. I was not there in December because the whole month of December I had a serious sinus infection and unfortunately wasn't able to attend a lot of things that month. It concerns me tonight that I've read the memo from the city manager, and there's reference to many shortcomings on the board, the way applicants have been treated. I've heard the way staff has been treated. And I've been sitting on this board for almost 4, 5, 6 years now, well, since 2008. And I don't remember any time when city staff or an applicant has asked to come back and has addressed the Planning and Zoning Board about these grievous accusations that are serious. And so I wonder what's really going on. You know, why isn't that being communicated to us as a board if there are these problems? I haven't heard them. And I've been there for most of the meetings. And the other thing that concerns me is I hear from the board and from the memo from the city manager that 2013 is going to be a big year. I'm not aware of what's coming on in 2013. But I'm concerned that if there's issues that someone knows about that's coming up, in the future, and they want to shift the membership or the composition of a board, a review board. Of course, Planning and Zoning Board is merely an advisory board, as you all know. And no matter how we vote as a board, the city commission, the item comes before you, and you can totally disregard whatever we say. And sometimes you do, and that's your prerogative. But it concerns me that I hear talk about changing the composition of the board because of what might be coming up before the board. Now, as a board, we don't all agree on the Planning and Zoning Board. We often disagree. I occasionally disagree with the city attorney who sits on the board. I sometimes disagree with a staff member, Mr. Chapman, who sits on the board and advises us and represents the staff. Members disagree among ourselves, but that's the nature of a collegiate board, just as this board. I would hope that you all don't agree on every issue that comes before you. I do agree with you that we need to treat everyone that comes before the board with respect that they deserve as a citizen and as an applicant. And I'm surprised to hear that there's been accusations that hasn't happened. And I would like to, if that does happen, if you are hearing those, I wish those would be brought before the board, rather than build up if there's scores of them and we haven't even been told about them. So those are my concerns. I appreciate the ability to serve you on that board. None of us have any vested interest in finishing a term. My term expires in 2014, but certainly I have no vested interest in finishing out the term. You can remove me at any time you want. That's what the statute says. And certainly you don't even have to give me notice of that. In fact, we didn't have notice of this being brought before you tonight. I just happened to be reading through the agenda and saw it. So we serve at your pleasure, but I would hope that you would like to have a diverse background on the board, and that I think that points about having training might be helpful for any board, and I appreciate what you do here, and I appreciate the ability to serve you on the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to congratulate the board on how well y'all look tonight with your ties and your suits and all dressed up. Everyone looks like they're ready for the new year. Sorry I'm late, but I was planning to come and confront the board and say, please get us a bookstore, because I had to go all the way down to Barnes & Noble to get the book Walkin' Lawton, and that's one of the best books you can read right now. And I came in and I'm hearing this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what they have to do when they get on a board. You get your plans. If you don't understand them, you come up here to City Hall and they'll help you. All questions should be asked at a meeting, an open meeting, because you may ask something that the other board members never thought of. And that's the open session, that everything is brought out in the open. What I don't like, and I think is very, very wrong, and when I was mayor, if I saw my commissioners doing it, they didn't do it very long, is that a board member or the chairman of the board is outside demeaning the applicants and their plans and saying it's wrong and it should not be allowed, and coming and speaking in front of the commission. They give their decision, and if they want to write something to the commission, fine, in that decision. But no board member should be out there in the hallway or in the audience beating up an applicant that comes to this city. That is the rudest thing we can do, and we have a reputation for that. And I thought that had ceased. And no board member or chairman of any board should get up here when the board has passed it, and because they don't like it or they were the one lone vote, and speak out against it. None of them should do that. And that's where you should have a rule. Because not only does it make the city look bad, it makes the commission look bad. Think about that one, because it's been happening. And as a citizen, I go and apologize to these developers or these builders. We don't want a bad reputation. Our community has a good reputation, nor should they go down county and represent the city on their own, fighting against something that wants to come to the city that's connected with the county. And that's what should be understood. But common sense, and we're bright people that get on these boards, know what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to study. So I want to thank you for that. Happy New Year. I want to congratulate the mayor on a wonderful Martin Luther King weekend, and congratulate him on our new president. We're going to have good years, I hope. And please, have the young lady who's working for the city to bring in a bookstore, even if it's Books A Million. We won't spend all that money going down to Clearwater. Thank you.
Few items of reference. Peter Lacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. I received this on my mailbox. The Holy Bible, New Testament, English Standard Version. funny, on Saturdays I take my mom up to Peninsula, where she visits her sister, and they like to visit a while. I'll maybe sit in the car and read, and I happen to be reading a little bit here, and I found this interesting. And then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And then a little later, we're going to just skip, most of this stuff. And while he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man, seize him." And he came up to Jesus at once and said, "Greetings, Rabbi." And he kissed him. And Jesus said to him, "Friends, do what you came to do." Okay, first off, P&Z, rules of procedure. We do this. We have this. Okay? Last page, Rule 5, review of rules. The rules of procedure shall be reviewed, reaffirmed, or amended as appropriate at least once every calendar year, which is done. I am having a copy of a memo from Mr. Yakman back on November 11th when we had many times gone over this. Now, part of those rules in section, and I know I'm not going to have total 4 minutes, but it does say, upon request by simple majority of the board, chairperson or designated will represent the board's decision, the board of commissioners at the public meeting. Very few items have we done this, and we've always known that any member who comes before the board here as an individual to speak on a project is speaking as an individual because they've not been authorized. Length of meetings. Rodney told us in November, "Hey, I'm letting y'all know we got a lengthy meeting on December. Prepare for it." Everybody wanted to get in at the last month. They did. And our procedures allow, which we did, to vote to extend the meeting like y'all do past 11 o'clock. I want to go to Jeff's stuff because it was positive as far as training. The length of meeting, if staff knows there's going to be a lot on there, you can schedule it over 2 days or check with us. He could ask us in November, "Hey, you want to have a meeting Monday and Wednesday or something?" Whatever. Special sessions, things like that. Attendance. I mentioned that last time. We have members who haven't attended or very frequently, and then they don't really participate. So training is important. Now, I am concerned, as Mr. Vinson mentioned, about trying to shape a board which will be basically open arms development. I can say that all of us on the boards want development, the proper development. And when Mr. Carapani mentions window of opportunity, it kind of makes me wonder, because at one time, Walmart wanted to come in here in 2003, 2004. And somebody could have said then, "Oh, hey, this is our window of opportunity." But because of resistance, and both at the P&Z and this board and other issues, we now have a Walmart where it's supposed to be, where it's creating the economic development that whole plaza needed. And you can ask any Tarpon Springs resident, pretty much any of them are going to say they sure as heck like it better there than having to try to navigate down 19 to cross with a light and all that stuff. So sometimes a window may open a little bit, but you don't want to let in the false light. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments on this item? Seeing none, close public comments.
Mr. Mayor, may I make an observation?
Yes, sir.
And I'm speaking as the city attorney and the board attorney. The PZ board serves two basic functions, and both of them are advisory. One of those is a quasi-judicial function, where it's not the board's job to make law or to inject personal opinions or have an agenda. I grow concerned when someone makes the argument that, you need someone up there who's anti-development or pro-development. When we're looking at the quasi-judicial function, because that's irrelevant when you're performing the quasi-judicial function. It's like a judge. There may be a judge who's deeply opposed to the death penalty, but when he takes the oath to be a judge, he takes an oath to apply the law as it is, regardless of his personal feelings. So the board's function as a quasi-judicial capacity is simply to hear and weigh you hear me say at every meeting, hear and weigh the evidence and determine whether the applicant has met previously established criteria in the code. And it's not the board's function to question the wisdom of those criteria or to ignore those criteria or to inject new criteria. And the only reason I'm concerned about that, because it's your city, is that there could be legal liability on the part of the city based upon how the meeting is conducted, whether the proper due process is afforded, whether the decision is based upon competent, substantial evidence, and whether the proper criteria are applied in making the decision. When the board sits in a quasi-judicial capacity, the members they take an oath to confine themselves and to apply those criteria in a fair and impartial fashion, and to confine and they have to confine their questioning to those criteria only based on evidence that's relevant and material to those criteria, and to refrain from questioning about irrelevant matters or injecting personal opinions in the deliberations. And again, I say that only out of concern for the potential legal liability, because when you challenge a quasi-judicial decision, there are three grounds, and I won't get technical, but one ground, two of those grounds are always A, there was not substantial competent evidence to support the decision, or B, they ignored the criteria or they made up new criteria. And so that's the quasi-judicial function. Now, the other function of the Planning and Zoning Board is really legislative in nature. It's to review and make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners regarding proposed changes in the Land Development Code, and even suggest those changes. And in that capacity, board members, you would want to have a diverse board that may be pro-development, anti-development, pro-environment, anti-environment, because you're entitled to inject your personal opinions in that, because you're trying to craft or suggest to the Board of Commissioners good and wise legislation that takes in those very subjective things. In both capacities, looking at from a lawyer and a former political scientist, the work of the PZ Board is important. And when performing either of those functions, the PZB would not be serving the city if it's a rubber stamp for the commission or the administration, because then, you wouldn't have the value of that input. But I think it's important when considering any of your boards who perform quasi-judicial functions, understand there's a real and substantial difference between the quasi-judicial function and the legislative advisory function. Then stepping aside from maybe the lawyer thing, I comment that the PZB is to some extent an ambassador between the city and developers. And that's not to suggest that the PZB board needs to approve every application, but I certainly think that the Board of Commissioners and the city should expect PZ members to not be so off-putting or confrontational that developers feel they've been rudely treated or unfairly treated. So those are my comments as the city attorney and the attorney for the Planning and Zoning Board.
Well, I appreciate those comments, and I don't want anyone to think that I don't have comments on this, because I do. I appreciate those planning and zoning people that came forward, and I do look at the planning and zoning tapes. I can't say I don't try to look at them that often, but I do look at them when people have concerns and they bring them to me. And I appreciate the comments that Mr. Vincent made, but I do differ in terms of what I've seen, even at the last meeting, the way that some of the planning and zoning individuals, and Mr. Lacus to say, biblically, whatever you're going to do, Jesus said, do quickly. I can tell you this, is that I didn't come to this meeting with any plan on what I was going to do. And I try not to come to these meetings with a preconceived idea on how I'm going to vote on items. But I can tell you one of the things that I don't like, and I try not to do it here. Sometimes people come to this podium, they say some things that I don't like, might be a little derogatory. I try not to act in a manner that I think does not represent the city well. I look at that as a responsibility of me as being the chair. I try to treat all of my colleagues with respect, whether I agree with what they're saying or not. One of the biggest things that I have with some members of the planning and zoning board, and I could tell you that, Mr. Lacus, you would be one of those. I don't play games. I don't try to play games. I think that respect and professionalism is what I expect from every body that's on a committee representing the city. I never asked for any board. I've never gone to a committee and try to lobby them one way or the other about what they're going to do. I don't even go to some of the meetings because I don't even want the perception that I'm trying to lobby you and the rest of that. All I ask is that you do your job, vote in the manner that you believe is appropriate, and treat people with respect. I believe that everybody deserves that much. Professionalism. That's the biggest problem that I have. Yes, there are some rules and regulations I would hope that we would follow. Do I agree with our attorney all the time? No. But I can tell you that I don't think he would ever tell you that I've tried to disrespect him and his opinion or his predecessor. And I believe that you can disagree with staff. You don't have to agree with what staff says. I don't agree with every item that staff brings before us, but I can guarantee you that you can ask any of them that whether I treat them with respect or not. And that's the biggest problem. It's not a matter of trying to shake the boards. I do think sometime, and even right now, is that planning and zoning as well as other boards are boards that are very, very, very important to the city. We've looked at various processes in terms of trying to do some type of interview, trying to figure out who the people that you're going to place on the board, and not from a standpoint of whether this person votes this way or not. I hear about Walmart and the rest of that, and I would hope that it would go away. The commission at that time voted for it. Maybe some people might forget that, but that commission voted for that item. Whether people wanted it and the rest of that, hey, that remains to be seen. You can walk around town right now, and someone would tell you, hey, they love that Walmart out there, but they wish they had a bigger one. They don't like all that King Park, have to go all. But that's, in a sense, beside the point. When we have quasi-judicial proceedings, that should be dealt with a certain way. You know what? Sometimes what happens is that everybody get lumped in and they say, the good stuff with the bad. I've been an elected official for a few years. I don't think that it's been that many times that we've talked about taking someone off of a board. And one time I voted against it because I didn't like the proceeding. I didn't think that it was going the right way. I didn't like the way that it came up. So, you know, it's not a matter to me of whether people on a board is vote the way I would vote because, hey, they vote the way that they believe. Planning and zoning as well as staff. Most of the time, we should be 90-some%, 95, whatever you want to say. I still say right now, we probably agree. There's some disagreement, and sometimes planning and zoning might want to vote one way, and the board, after some things might have changed and have different opportunity for the information, it might be a different vote. It is good when you have people that ask questions. And it's not a matter sometimes, and I'll say this right now, it's not a matter sometimes, Mr. DeLacus, the questions that we ask. It's the way we ask the questions. My problem, and I've said it before, when you came the last time saying, what is this, what y'all trying to do? I think that when you are a committee member and you say everything you want to say at that committee, and then you come down and you say some things here publicly, there is the perception that you're speaking on behalf of that board. The perception. And yes, you have a right. But when you come down here and you start talking about some developer as a carpetbagger and the rest of that, I don't think that it represents the city well. And while I understand where my colleagues are and I respect them and I look at trying to see if some of the things that Commissioner Lawson talked about, which I think are wise things for us to implement, and while we might not look at removing anyone tonight, I can tell you, as I sit here, I'm not going to allow that what I've seen happen in the past continue to happen. If an individual wants to be on a city board, respect and professionalism is first and foremost. Mr. Vincent talked about it. He talked about, hey, everybody should be respected. And I think that some people have been disrespected and have been disrespected right here in this chamber, right there. I let anybody that come up, they got 4 minutes, they can say basically what they want to say. And there's been times that I felt afterwards that I should have said something. And I can tell you the one time that really eats at me right now is when you call one of the individuals that came here to try to help the city in his mind a carpetbagger. And I think that that is very, very inappropriate, especially after you've had a chance to say whatever you want to say in any type of manner that you want to say it. And I say this, I think that the chairman of that board tries his best to keep some type of professionalism there. I've even heard him, I don't know if you was there, Mr. Vincent, or not, say to Mr. DeLacus, these are professionals. Would you treat them that way? And I'm saying that I don't think that that type of behavior is appropriate. I do think, as Commissioner Lawson talks about, that we should be doing something as far as training is concerned. I beg to differ with the former mayor about all questions should be asked at open meetings. Because I've been here a little while, I remember when I first came on, I was sitting down there where Commissioner Tarpan is sitting. She was sitting in this position. And she looked down at me, she said, Commissioner, you need to do some homework. You know, I never forgot that. I told her I was doing homework and dealing with people before I ever sat down there. I know how to ask people questions. And when I don't get the right response, I know what to do then too. So I do think that if there are some situations that you need further information from staff, you should do that. If you don't feel like you got the right answer, ask them again publicly. I don't have a problem with that, but I do think that there are proper ways of dealing with things. Looking at attendance, I believe that that's something that I would ask that we get for all of our boards. Everybody that's on the board, I like for us to look at what their attendance is. That's a requirement. I can tell you that I try to make every one of these meetings here. I don't make them, but I try to. When I had wisdom tooth pulled, had the flu, I talked to the city manager. He tried to urge me not to come, and I guess common sense said, hey, I shouldn't, so I didn't. But I do think that attendance is important. So those things that Commissioner Lawson talked about, I definitely concur with, but I can say to my colleagues this is that I think that everybody that serves on the committee represents the citizens of Tarpon. And whenever a citizen goes in there and watches them, they should feel like these individuals are doing their best to serve them and serve them with professionalism and respect. So I don't know which way we go tonight. I know what the next thing on here calls for in terms of the next item, which is talking about removal, and we kind of talked about it now. You know, I tell you this, I think that, and I said it privately and I said it publicly, I've shared with, at one time, Commissioner DeLacos, that, you know, it's not all about what you say, but how you say it. And he has a lot of good questions to ask. A lot of good things have happened as far as the city is concerned because of the questions that he's asked. But I do think that there's a limit in what you say and trying to follow the directions of our attorney, who is trying to keep us from having so many lawsuits. And I do think that some of the things that's being said and done does open us up to being liable. And I can tell you, as one individual that sits here, that I think that if those things continue, then we should be removing someone. You know, I'm you know, even right now, I'm saying to myself, you know, whether I should be the one that would initiate that. And I tell you this, whether I vote for an individual to go on a board or not, when this board here says that that individual represents us, that's it for me. When this board here says that we support an issue, that's it for me. I don't go behind trying to do, and that doesn't represent me. We should be speaking as one, whether we agree with the final decision or not. And I think that's the way it should be as far as committees are concerned. You know, and if you come before us, you should make it very, very clear that you're speaking as an individual. And if you do decide that you want to have your rights, what you do, that you need to do it with respect. And I can tell you this, if it comes to my attention about any committee, not just planning and zoning, decide that professionalism and respect is not what they feel like they should give to anyone, then I think that that person needs to be removed. What decision they make, they can vote any way they want to vote. You know, and I say that because, hey, what happens with planning and zoning, they are advisory. But if we got good people giving us good advice, then we're in a better position. That's the way I feel, even if I don't agree with what they're saying. If they're trying to give me good advice, then hey, I should be able to weigh that out and make a good decision on behalf of the people of Tarpon Springs. So I just say, I don't know if somebody, feels strongly that, there's a member that needs to be replaced on that board tonight or not. But, that's the second item of what, we're charged to do. So, I just say that I am a little, well, not just a little. I'm very, very concerned. I'm very, very concerned about the behavior that is exhibited on tapes, not just one tape, on tapes. And I say this is that all of us have personal opinions. We're all shaped by the things that we've been taught or whatever. But when we sit up here, when we start to represent the citizens of Tarpon, I tell people every time we vote for giving somebody the right to drink it, I could say, hey, I don't drink anymore. I don't think that that's what anybody should do. And I tell people I probably drunk enough when I was younger that I don't need to drink anymore. But I can't make the decision based upon I don't do this. So therefore, even though it is legal, I should vote a certain way. And I do think that sometimes we need to rise above our own personal opinion about an item and do what's legally responsible as far as our vote. So, with that, I'm not sure if we want to take up beef. I'm even at a point where as I think about the whole process, one of the things that I said that I would do that I haven't done, I don't know if the rest of you have, but that's calling these references and the rest of that as far as placing people on boards. They give us a little bit about, themselves, and then we take that leap of faith that these are the ones that we should be putting on these boards. And then some of them, which we probably will find out when we get the attendance list, have a change of heart and maybe not even show up as much at these meetings. So, Commissioner Slattery.
Thank you. Well, and I agree, training is a big part of this issue. But I have to say, for the record, that at least three, maybe four of these members on this planning and zoning board are extremely seasoned. So they know what they're doing. I'm sorry, they know what they're doing. Maybe for new people that are coming in, I know we used to have some sort of training, I know with Mr. Hubbard, Sunshine Law.
We still give that out.
You still give that out? Okay. I'm not sure what other training they get, probably none. I would suggest that we put something together, at least someone that is appointed to one of our boards, sit with the proper director so they know what their responsibilities are. And I would like to see if we can get a copy of attendance records for each board. I would appreciate that. I don't know if if the city manager and the city attorney can have a meeting with the planning and zoning board. And again, reiterate what we've discussed here tonight, because they're all not here. I didn't know that, everybody wasn't invited. I thought maybe they were invited to come. But, and I don't want everybody to take this personal, because it's not everybody on the board that's disruptive and not, so, I think, we need to give them a shot and sit them down. These are the rules and procedures, hand them out, get some questions from them, explain what is expected, and and look at their meetings in the next 1 or 2 meetings and see where it's going, if it's changed. And like I said, we have at least 3 members on here that are very seasoned and have been in the city quite a long time and serving on this board for quite a long time. So they know what the rules and procedures are. But if that's where we need to go this evening, that's just my thought.
Well, whatever the pleasure of the board is, I can tell you this, is that some of the problem is not that people are not seasoned, it's just that they choose to do it. And, and that's why it's still bothering me, because they choose to do it. Some of them, I can tell you, I didn't vote for. Normally when we vote, I always say, hey, it's unanimous, go ahead. Some people I won't vote for. I tell you that right now. You bring some people before me, I'm not going to vote for them. Period. Because some of the people have always been in this disruptive force and been disrespectful. And they continue, And I'm just saying right now, if they continue, if this is the pleasure of the board not to remove anybody, they continue to be disrespectful, rude, I will place it on the agenda. And I will pass the gavel. And I will make the motion. And I'll see if I can get a sucker to remove. And I tell people, I don't threaten people, because this is not a threat. But it is a promise. And my promise is this. You're going to be disrespectful to people when they come before the city, then you should not be representing the citizens of Tarpon Springs. Plain and simple. So, we're at item 2. I don't know what the pleasure is. There's no motion. I'm going to move to the next item. So.
Well, if I may, Mayor, I know this is replacement of present members, but like I said, I'm asking, can we move in the direction of having both city manager and city attorney sit with the members very soon? And discuss again everything we've discussed here tonight, and then let's look at the next month or so, see if anything's changed, and if not, then at that time, yes, I think we need to make some major decisions here.
Does anybody have any problem with that? I would also suggest that the things that Commissioner Larson and others have talked about, we look at, I don't know what additional training that we can give, and I know that that's not really the problem in this instance, but it can be a problem as we move forward and place people on board that might not have had the opportunity to serve up here. Some of the people have, so they understand quasi-judicial and the rest of that. But if we could do that, I have no problem if nobody else does as far as the city manager and attorney sitting with planning and zoning board members are going to, I guess, to one of the meetings. Unless, y'all meet with them individually. But
whatever you want.
Well, I'm not sure from Sunshine. I mean, if you got 2 of them there, so you got that. So then you got a public meeting. So if you don't have a public meeting to deal with that, I don't know whether well, we don't want to. I don't think we want to prolong. One of the meetings that people are sitting out there waiting on other items.
Have it at the end of the P&Z meeting.
Yeah. 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So y'all gonna work that out? Yeah. Okay. The other item that we have is looking at an alternate for that board. I know that there have been, I don't know, I think everybody found out something, I don't know. we got a lot of applications.
We told you last meeting we were sending out a blitz to try to get applicants for all boards. We've got several boards, so we put out a blitz for all boards to try to get some membership. One board in particular had none, and we may be talking about the February 5th meeting, some attendance issues with that board, which may be replaced, but 2 weeks ago, we didn't have anybody to put on the board, so it was an issue. Now we've got applicants for several of the boards, and so the media blitz and getting the word out was successful. Sorry that all came in the last minute, so you might not have much time to look at them, but we've got several boards that need some attention and going to need some memberships and didn't have a list of people to choose from, so we're happy that not all coming in last minute.
So, I don't know whether you want to do that or you want to take some time to look at the ones that you have, or what the pleasure of the...
Can we take some time? We've got a mound of them, and, you know.
I mean,
If this
they've
is
got...
for an alternate?
Yeah, like I say, with the volume that's come in from Friday to today and stuff, it hasn't given you much time to make calls, do the checking out, which I think is very important, something the mayor said, to actually, you know, have a process of the selection of, if you got to make some calls and ask some questions. So that would be appropriate to put that to the 5th meeting if you want more time to review the applications that have come in.
Anybody have
I just have one thing that, from past experience in coming to meetings when prior to being a commissioner, when there would be board appointments, my recollection is that each commissioner or mayor would go around and they would select a candidate and speak to that candidate. I mean, not speak to them directly, but speak to why they thought that candidate was fit for the position, or highlight why they thought that the candidate was sufficient for that position. And it seems like in the past we've just kind of gone along and said, this is who I'd like, this is who I'd like, this is who I'd like. So I think as we're talking about looking at these boards and trying to appoint people who we see fit, or have expertise or some form of a background in that particular board, I would just suggest that I think it may be helpful, at the pleasure of the board, to say a few things about the candidate or why they personally select them or not. That's just my opinion. I think it may be helpful.
Okay. Well, that's a choice that everybody have. I mean, because the rules basically that everybody get a chance to select an individual. So if you have a little bio or something that you want to say about that person to kind of convince everybody else that that's the one. That's great. Also means that if they turn out to be a bad one, just go point the finger. But we'll look at putting that on the next agenda. And I think with that, that concludes our agenda. I don't know, Chief, if you have anything.
No, just had a good time at the MLK event, and the parade went well, and I'll pass that on.
Mr. Attorney?
No comments.
City Manager?
As you've seen from some emails today, there was some rather good news to start a week out on several cases. First of all, the bid protest we've been informed that they are going to end their bid protest process, so they're not on the water project. So there was scheduled a hearing tomorrow on that bid protest. They've notified us that they're not going to pursue us to allow us to proceed with the water project, which, first of all, I want to thank them for making that decision to moving forward. But obviously we can't move forward right away because we are in a new quarter. There's new issues with the bond, so we got to do all the configuring and figuring out for our bond issues to find out where we are. So hopefully we can get that done within hopefully by one of the March meetings to get that back to you. We'll be ready to award the bid. That's fine, but again, to put together the bonds and bring the bond issue back that's going to finance the water plant, it's going to take some time because all the figures have to be redone and everything had to be started because we're in the first quarter of 2013, not the last quarter of 2012, and it changes. So we'll be working on that process. So that's a good piece of news, and that our water plant is not gonna be held up because of this bid process, and we can move forward. The other thing I think you saw, I sent out later in the afternoon, we have been confirmed that, we are being given through Pinellas County Health and the grant, that they are giving us the $25,000 for the adult fitness, equipment for the park at the end of Stafford and Live Oak. So that process was reaffirmed. The equipment we wanted, the company, knew the parameters of the grant. I think we're able to put in a great start to an adult fitness thing with that $25,000, with the capability later on or in the future to expand it. As you know, we do have a lot of recreation for kids in Tarpon Springs, but recreation for adults are lacking. At this location, being the cornerstone of the trail, when the East Lake section opens up with Keystone Road, that park is going to be a center point. Obviously, we've got a big parking lot across the street, so hopefully that whole area will be a trail hub, a place where there can be adult fitness and different activities, and just further use of that park, which is kind of the connection between the downtown and the docks. With all the nice olive trees and everything else that park has to offer, we did get the grant for the fitness equipment, so that's $25,000 for us. Largo and St. Pete had received the grants previously. We went down and looked at both their parks. The equipment is fabulous, it's durable, and it's very good for seniors to use, anybody to use. And I think that park will be attractive to possibly seniors also, and some senior fitness. So I know Commissioner Alhousis is always concerned about the seniors and that activities, and that'll be a good place for that to happen. So it was pretty good news today on that front with those two important issues.
Thank you. Madam Clerk? Mr. Lawson?
No comment.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, I would like to ask Mr. Licorice if he has an update on the internal auditor, when they will be ready to provide us with their recommendations to the board.
I don't have any idea. So.
Okay. We should be getting close to that then.
Should be. Mr. Slattery?
I just had one announcement. Don't forget, tomorrow evening at the Yacht Club, Tarpon Springs Yacht Club, there's a meeting regarding the Beckett Bridge from 5 to 7:30.
I'd just like to remind everyone that the Historical Society is hosting a Valentine's soiree, and I believe it's to be held at the Currents Restaurant on February 14th. So please come and attend. It'll be a nice event.
And I just echo what Commissioner Slattery said. That's for everyone to understand that the Beckett Bridge is a very important project, but is not a city project. And it doesn't really matter what we as a body say, as the county has showed us a few times. So it's going to be important that citizens come out and voice their opinion in terms of what they would like to see there. Of course, we'll do whatever we can in terms of trying to echo that, but it's going to be very important that the citizens of Tarpon make their voice heard. So that's 5 o'clock tomorrow, Yacht Club. So with that, we will adjourn at 8:47. 8:54. Even with my new glasses.